Okay, folks, Jim Johnson here, Rachel Trout. We're here to do St. Louis style ribs. If you've been to bbqbyjimjohnson.com, you've seen us do the baby back ribs. Today we're going to do the St. Louis style rib, which is the side rib. It's a little more fat, closer to the belly, a little more fat on it, a little more flavor to it, we think. So we're going to do this, but we're going to do this a little bit more like a competition style rib as opposed to a backyard rib. The other rib we did for you, more like a backyard. Family coming over, friends coming over, we're going to have a little bit of a barbecue. Today we're going to do a little bit more. We're going to add flavors. We're going to add a lot of stuff to it, and we're going to get started. So what we do is if you can see, we've been to the store. We just bought a really nice St. Louis style rib. First thing I'm going to do, take my knife, go right down the center, and we're going to take this rib out.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. Now I noticed there's a little bit of an odor. Is there not when you open that?
It is. So the reason being is a lot of people get nervous because when you go to the store and you buy something that's been cry-backed, then they'll take it home and they open it up and it's an off odor, and they sit there and go, ooh, that's a little bit more of an odor than I want. Is it spoiled? Is it bad? Should I throw it away? So what we're going to do is we're going to do the test today. You've got that little bit of off odor. What happens? Let's explain to you what happens here. When they cry-back this, when they process this animal and they butcher everything out and they put it in it, from the time it comes in the back door, it goes in a freezer in about 20 minutes. So they cut it, they cry-back it, put it in a flash freezer, and then we take it out and put it in the cooler so it starts to thaw out, we're ready to go. But what happens is because the USDA allows this, they put in a nitrous gas.
Okay.
The nitrous gas, when they vacuum seal this, keeps the meat looking red. Have you ever brought meat home, like hamburger meat, open the package, next morning it's gray?
Yes.
This is what would happen if they didn't have the nitrous gas in it.
Okay.
So they put the nitrous gas in it. Well, the gas and all the blood and everything else that's in this gives it that off odor. So it mixes together and it gives you a really, really bad odor to it.
So it's nothing to be concerned about. I don't need to throw the meat out.
No, not if it's like that. You're in good shape. So what we're going to do is just show you how to salvage that. And in the meantime, we're going to take this out. Nice looking slab of rib, big piece of meat. I'm going to put it in a pan. We have a little bit of water in this pan. If you notice, there's just a little bit of water in there. We want to give that rib a bath. And you can see some of the debris coming out of it. So any dry blood, because they process it, and then they run it to a freezer. So if there's any blood inside, it's still dry. So what happens is this will pull this out. But this is still not what we need. We want to be better than your neighbor, of course. So what are we going to do? We're going to use apple cider vinegar. You're going to pour half a cup into this amount of water. So what Rachel's doing now is she pours anywhere from a half a cup to a cup of water in there. You can't go wrong on this, Rachel. You can add that whole bottle if you wish. You could rinse it all in vinegar if you like.
Okay.
Vinegar's a natural meat tenderizer. Plus, it's going to give you that nice fresh smell. So we're going to put that in. We're just going to give it a little bit of a bath. And this is not something we have to leave overnight or a long period of time. 20, 30 seconds is all we have to do with this. So we're going to do that. We're going to give it a bath. We're going to, whoops, I don't want to splash you. So then when it comes back out, now you see, and look at the water. You see all that impurity?
Yeah.
But if you smell it, you got that nice vinegar smell.
Yeah.
So that's a nice fresh flavor and everything. So now we know that we're going to start out with something good. So if we do it right, we're going to finish with something great.
Okay.
Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take it out of our vinegar bath. We're going to transfer this back over to the table. She's going to take that, pour it down the drain. It doesn't hurt anything. And then we're going to start prepping this rib because we said we were going to make it a little bit more competition-wise. You can see we've got a lot of fat, a lot of different things. We also have on this, we have a membrane. So we're going to start with the membrane. And the best way to take that off is a lot of people will start in the corner with a paper towel and do it that way. I like to come down and just take an oyster knife and go under. And then what I'm going to do is get under like this, come down, and guess what? We'll get a nice little grip on it, pull on it, and we're going to come off with this. So come back in here, and if you take an oyster knife that's not too sharp on the edges, what it'll do is it'll go underneath that membrane and not rip it and cut it like a knife will. So we want to go under there, go all the way through, pull on it. It pulls both ways, and then we pull it off. Okay? Now, what I want to do also is I'm going to get rid of this in the trash. We're going to take a knife. This is where competition style is where your mom and dad really get upset because we waste a lot. Because we're going to take this, we're going to trim this, and there's no way they would cut this off and let it go you know, and throw it away like we're gonna throw it away. So I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna trim it. We're gonna take a nice sharp knife, go down through here. We're gonna trim all this excess off, because what happens is this is really good, but it's gonna cook faster. And if it cooks faster, then it's gonna be done long before the rib is. And if it is, then it's not gonna be good at all. Now, fat is where the flavor is gonna be. So we're gonna leave some of it on, but basically we're gonna cut as much off as we can. And the white that you see on pork is fat. So at 165 degrees, it'll start to render out. So that will turn to a liquid and then go away. So it's good that it does that, because we can render it out, have a nice lean rib when we're through. But in the meantime, if you see fat on beef, that is tallow. There's a big difference. If it's white and you see it on beef, it's gonna be there when you get through cooking. But if you see it on pork, it should render out. So we're gonna trim this up. You saw how ugly it was, how fatty it was. Now all of a sudden we're gonna come down through here, we're taking some of this off. You see this extra layer of fat?
Gonna get rid of that too.
We're gonna get rid of this. We're gonna take some of that off. And then what I'm gonna do is actually I'm gonna come down in through here and I'm gonna just cut it at the bone right here. I'm gonna find the bone. I'm gonna go in between the bone, cut it straight so I've got a smooth edge. And what I'm trying to do is make it uniform. We'll trim that up. I'm gonna come back, trim some of this fat off. Like I said, the fat will render out, fat leaves behind flavor. So if we have some fat, that means our rib won't be dry as it could be, you know, but we don't want extra gobs of fat. Nobody wants a big piece of fat on a rib. They want it all rendered out. But if we can't get it rendered out, we can trim some of it up. Just like right here, we'll just come back and we'll just cut a little bit of this across the top. That's gonna leave a nice little flavor right there. It's gonna leave a nice flavor profile. We're trimming that up. I've got a little silver skin here. So what I wanna do is I wanna come under, cut that silver skin off, because that's gonna be tough. And you notice how meaty this is? This is a side rib. So remember this, the closer to our bellies, the fatter it gets. So this is the side, so it's going toward the belly. The belly of the hog is actually going to be bacon. So that's the reason you see all the fat on bacon. Okay, we've trimmed this up. We've got a competition style rib. The one before was a backyard, neighborhood swim party type deal. This is gonna be a little bit more. It's gonna have more flavor profiles. But if you want the true competition, you have to sign up for that class, and we do that different. That's an all-day process to make a competition style rib. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna layer this with flavor. We told you we're gonna go a little more comp style, so we're gonna come with that. So we're gonna flip this over, and you're gonna do the backside. So you're gonna put that rub down, kind of heavy. As you can see, she's putting it down really, really heavy. So it's gonna coat it real good. I don't worry with all the process of rubbing it in. I don't like to close the pores. So if it sticks, it sticks. If it doesn't, then I'm okay with it. Now, normally I take mustard, and we put mustard on here, so it gives us a really, really nice bark. So we would put the mustard down. That way our dry rub would adhere to it. But because I forgot to bring the mustard when I came out, we're not gonna put mustard on. But when you're at home, I want you to put mustard on, because then you're gonna be better than your neighbor. We're gonna flip it over. Now, you notice I do the back side first, because that way it leaves the front side, top side looking better. Now we've got it really nice. I'm not gonna abuse it much. Shake it, whatever comes off, comes off. Now we're gonna come back with the dry rub. So we're at our dry rub. We're gonna put that on just as heavy. It's gonna stick. Now if we add the mustard on there, it's gonna need a nice crust, but it's also gonna create a bark because the dry rub's gonna stick to it. There's a salt in this, so the salt's gonna pull the moisture to the surface. So what I wanna do is I wanna let this thing set for 10 to 20 minutes before I go to the grill with it. And why do I wanna do that? Is because now that salt will pull the moisture to the surface, and if it does, you'll see this start to sweat. And if you see it start to sweat and turn moist and everything, then we know the pores are open. So when we put it on the smoker, it will pull the smoke right back down into the meat. It'll pull the flavor down into the meat, so we'll have flavor all the way through and through, all the way to the bone and back. And we're gonna have a beautiful, beautiful slab of ribs here. As you see, it's trimmed up really, really nice. We're gonna take this to the smoker. We're gonna put it on there, give it a nice smoke bath for a couple hours. Then you're gonna see we're gonna do some other tricks later on that we're gonna add some more flavors to it. We're gonna wrap it in some foil. We're gonna do some little tricks and everything to make this the best rib you've ever had. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open this up. Rachel's gonna bring the rack out to me so that she's gonna bring the rack out. and I can put this rack of ribs right on there. All right, that rack is hot. We've already got the smoker hot. I'm gonna put this on. We're gonna put that on just like so. And now when you do, what I don't want you to do is to stretch them out. I want you to push them in so they're compact. If they're compact, they won't dry out. If you set and stretch them out, they're gonna dry out as they cook, and we don't want a dry rib. We want it compacted, we want it to look good, and we want it to taste great. Okay, folks, we're back. It's Jim, this is Rachel. We've been cooking, we put the ribs on. You saw us do the prep work and everything, go to the ribs. Now it's time to check the ribs to see where we are. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a little bit different. We said we're gonna do a little bit more of a competition style rib. So what we've done so far is we've laid down some foil. We've put the brown sugar down, so we're gonna add extra layers of flavor. All we're doing is adding flavor and flavor and flavor to this rib. So Rachel's going to put pats of butter on here for richness, and then she's gonna come back and put a couple of beads of honey down there. And then we're gonna come back with our dry rub. And the reason we're putting our dry rub is because we've had it on there at the very beginning, but as time and temperature, the product degrades a little bit. So we wanna bring that flavor back up. So during the cooking process, our flavor profile dips a little bit. So now what we wanna do is bring the profile back up. So what we're gonna do is just put down a nice little bead of dry rub. Doesn't have to be much. We're gonna add a little bit to it. She's gonna put 2 beads of honey on it. And then I'm gonna go to the smoker and we're gonna bring a slab of ribs and put it face down in this nice gooey mess. Okay, we've taken it off the grill and we're getting ready to put this back on the smoker.
Okay, so I have a question for you.
Okay.
I know you're a professional and you've done this for years and years, but for those of us who aren't professionals, how do we know that this is ready to come off the grill? We don't have a meat thermometer, you haven't been checking the temperature, so walk me through this.
No 2 pieces of meat cook the same. So what happens is I'm looking for color. 2 things I'm looking for at this point in time is the color that I'm looking for. I'm looking for a nice mahogany red. Second thing I'm looking for is moisture. I'm looking for moisture on top of the rib. That tells me that the fat has rendered out. The fat is rendered out, it's coming to the surface, so we know the insides are starting to cook. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn this over and actually cook it meat side down. So we're gonna put this right in that nice gooey mess, just like so, and we're gonna wrap it. So when we wrap it, there's a trick to wrapping. You see a lot of people, they'll bring 2 pieces together and fold it down.
Yeah, that's how I do.
Don't do that.
Oh.
Because, and I'll tell you why, because we're gonna put this back on the smoker, and when we get ready to test this, we need to be able to look at it. And when I unroll it like that, my little tender fingers are gonna be burning because I have to unroll that nice little roll that you just did. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna roll it over. We're gonna roll it over. Now, what I do is I find the end. I come 1 inch past that, push down, fold it over. I come down here 1 inch past this, push down and fold it over. Now why do I do that? Is because I only have 1 piece of foil here, and if the bone starts to pull back and the bone's revealed and I wrap it real tight, that bone could puncture this. And if it does, all those good juices are gonna run out and the meat's gonna stick and burn to the foil. So this way we're gonna do it. And the reason we do it this way, instead of that fancy little deal, it's pretty when you do the fancy little stuff, but this way, if I want to take a look at it while we're cooking, all I have to do is take my fingers, roll back, roll back, roll back. I can look, I haven't burnt myself.
Okay.
So nice, quick, easy tip. We want to give you tips and everything because what's the one thing that we do? We're here to make you better than your neighbor. And I promise you, this is going to be the best rib you've had today. But see, look how tender this is already.
Yeah, wow. Ooh. So now how long do these cook now?
We like to cook them an hour. Okay. I want these bones to fall out. Competition, you can't have the bones falling out. But for you guys, I'm gonna make the bones fall out.